everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought we would discuss Clodsire and we would look at some of its weaknesses and some of its advantages. And I am going to show you guys some of the games that I played in Open Great League using Clodsire. But before we get to that, I'm going to let you guys know how my Wooper Community Day went yesterday. It wasn't great, honestly. I had 1 hour to play because Sundays where I live is a weekday, and unfortunately I only got an hour to play before my university started. And on top of all of this, we had a weather boost, which meant that I could not get a good IV Paldean Wooper. So in the 1 hour that I did play, I was rushing because obviously I had to get to university, and I tried my best to catch as many Paldean Woopers as I could because I needed one at least that was an okay IV for Great League, but they also weren't spawning that much. It felt like the blue ones were spawning a lot more than the Paldean ones. But in the end, this is what I was able to catch in 1 hour. I only got 11 shinies, unfortunately, and not that many of the Paldean Wooper. But the best Clodsire that I did catch was a rank 338 for Great League. It is 7-15-15, which, will do. And when I evolved it, it only needed one power-up to reach the 1500 CP mark. So that was okay. I didn't spend too much dust on it. However, I would have liked one that would power up more, so that had better IVs. That way I could power it up more and it would be just a little bit bulkier. Now, as for Clodsire itself, I have mixed feelings about this Pokemon. I did regain all of the points that I lost in Electric Cup, but unfortunately, after I tried Clodsire in Open Great League, I lost them all again. Now, I don't think Clodsire is a bad Pokemon. I'll get into the positives first. It is very tanky, very, very tanky. It's a really good closer, and it can take moves really well. It can soak up damage really well, so that's a positive. The negative is it takes forever to build up to any of its charged moves because it has only nukes. So it needs a bait move or a charge move that it can get to faster. Also, Clodsire doesn't output that much damage. It is not an attack-heavy Pokemon, and its charged moves don't do that much damage. It doesn't have any fast move pressure at all. Like, no fast move pressure damage. It has Mud Shot and Poison Sting, and most of the time, these fast moves are going to be doing almost nothing to the opponent. They're just tickling the opponent. Something else I didn't like about Clodsire was it's really difficult to build a team around it because it has so many weaknesses. It's going to be taking super effective from ice, water, ground. It's going to be taking super effective from psychic also. So I found it really difficult to build a team around Clodsire because whatever I would put with it, it felt like the team was unbalanced. So for example, when I put Clodsire with Medicham, the team was weak to ghost types. When I put Clodsire with Medicham also, the team was weak to flyers, especially Gligar. Gligar destroys Clodsire. When I paired Clodsire with a grass type because it seemed like it would be a good idea to have a grass type to counter those water types that Clodsire is going to be weak to, then I was weak to ice types and flyers. So it really felt like whatever I was doing, I couldn't balance the team. Again, if I paired it with a dragon type, then I was weak to ice again. Do you see where I'm going here? So I did lose pretty badly the first two sets that I played, but to be fair, this first set that I played that I'm showing you guys right now in the video, I got hard countered so bad. So for example, in this game right now, I got double water in the back, Jellicent and Swampert, so Clodsire had nowhere to go, and the lead was Galvantula, which is not great for my Medicham lead. And you can see in this next game where I decide to pair Clodsire with Alolan Ninetales and Toxicroak, I get a Clodsire lead against my Alolan Ninetales, which is running Charm, and then when I swap into Toxicroak, I get a Mantine, and my opponent has a Sableye in the back, which Clodsire actually won't be doing too well against the Sableye, unfortunately. So I was getting really hard countered in this first set. Now here's one of the games that I did win in the first set, and this shows how strong Clodsire is. I get an Arctivax lead, and then my opponent safe swaps into Clodsire, and unfortunately, I don't have the best answer to Clodsire on my own team. I just bring in my Toxicroak, and I'm going to go for these Mud Bombs, and I can't take an Earthquake from the Clodsire. This Clodsire is running Stone Edge and Earthquake. They're not running Sludge Bomb and Earthquake. So I go ahead and I double shield my Toxicroak. I am going to end up taking both of their shields at least, so we have that. But they are going to be able to take Switch and take us out. I'm going to bring in my own Clodsire, and I'm going to farm as much as I can before they reach the Earthquake, and then I throw the Sludge Bomb to take them out because I didn't want to take an Earthquake from them. And my opponent brings back in the Arctivax, and I'm going to go ahead and throw Earthquake, and then I'm going to swap Ninetales, fully expecting the Nidoqueen in the back because I had a feeling it was going to be a double poison line, and I was hoping that the Weather Ball would do enough damage to take out Nidoqueen. Unfortunately, it was not enough, and now I just have to hope that I can live an Avalanche. And I do! We survive an Avalanche. That is how tanky Clodsire is, and we're able to take them out with a Sludge Bomb. So it has its ups and downs. Now in the next game, I do go ahead and I swap out the Toxicroak for the Stunfisk because I wanted better coverage for opponent Clodsires. Now I am going to go ahead and swap into my Stunfisk here against the Alolan Ninetales because I want to draw out a Water type, and we get what we want. We draw out the Swampert. It's going to go ahead and take us out, and then I'm going to bring in my Ninetales and shield once and then farm down. Now, all I have to do is hope that my opponent doesn't have the best answer to Clodsire in the back. I'm going to go ahead and let this go, and then I am going to go for a Weather Ball myself. Now I'm going to bring in Clodsire, and my opponent simultaneously swaps into their Superior. And now you're going to see where Clodsire kind of struggles. Now, to be fair, I wasn't running Poison Sting at first. I was running Mud Shot, but Poison Sting did perform better. I am going to show you guys a positive set soon. But you can see, because Clodsire is at part ground typing, it will be taking neutral from these Frenzy Plants, and they are hurting. Even though Clodsire is pretty tanky, these Frenzy Plants hurt, and I'm not able to take that win. And here I go ahead and I change the fast move because I got frustrated and we lost that first set and I tanked pretty badly. Now in the next set, I thought it would be a good idea to pair Guzzlord with Clodsire because, you know, a poison type and a dragon type. However, I immediately get the Galarian Wheezing lead, and that was so unfortunate for me. I had to swap out into something. I go ahead and I swap into Clodsire, which is not the best idea, and my opponent brings in Lantern with Water Gun, and because it has Water Gun, it is going to be destroying me. And notice I don't have the Mud Shot anymore to do super effective damage with my fast move. I have Poison Sting now, so Lantern is able to take out the Clodsire, and they have Medicham in the back. My entire team is weak to Medicham. I noticed this and I went and I changed my team. I cannot run this team anymore, because Guzzlord is going to be weak to Medicham. Clodsire, even though it resists fighting, is going to be weak to Medicham as well. And Stunfisk, weak to Medicham. So I do end up swapping the Guzzlord to Lickitung, and I swap the Stunfisk to Gligar. Now, I am met with another counter lead. It's not the hardest counter, but Medicham versus Lickitung, not great for my Lickitung, so I swap into Clodsire. And of course, my opponent is going to stay in because these Psychics really hurt. Now, I think my opponent tried to catch the next Sludge Bomb on their own Clodsire, but luckily for us, I kept farming and I am able to reach 2 Earthquakes, and because I have high attack on my Clodsire, I am able to win CMP against their Clodsire. So now my opponent is going to bring back in their Medicham, go for that Ice Punch. Again, both of my opponent's charge moves are going to be super effective against Clodsire. And I felt like I had to bring in Lickitung there against the Medicham to absorb the charge moves because I didn't want to take an Ice Punch on my Gligar. So I go ahead and I bring in Lickitung, and then my opponent swaps out of their Medicham and they bring in their own Lickitung. Now what I do is I chip it a little bit with a Body Slam on my Lickitung. And then I bring in Gligar because Gligar actually doesn't have the greatest matchup against Lickitung. But we are able to land the dig on the second charge move. Thankfully, I guess they were expecting me to go Aerial Ace twice. But now my opponent is going to bring in Medicham, and because they are really low health, they see that there is no point shielding there, and they take the Aerial Ace, and we take that win. So I do like this team. However, it still has some weaknesses. This team is extremely weak to Mandibuzz. It is also quite weak to Sandslash. If I'm not able to handle the Sandslash here with my Lickitung, then my backline is going to have a really rough time because both of my back Pokemon cannot outpace Sandslash to a ground move before Sandslash can get to those, Ice Punches and Drill Runs. Now my opponent brings in Sableye. They safe swap a Sableye, and luckily for us, I am able to take it out because also Clodsire isn't going to do well against Sableye. And because I took too long to swap, then my Gligar wasn't going to have a good matchup against the Sableye either. The best option was for me to stay in with my own Lickitung, which was my best answer to Sableye. And you can see my opponent has a Mandibuzz in the back, and I am really, really, really going to struggle to take out this Mandibuzz because all I have left are a Lickitung whose fast move is going to be very resisted by the Mandibuzz, and also their Sandslash is still alive. So we pretty much have already lost this game. This Gligar is not going to be able to do nearly enough damage to take out this Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is too tanky. So unfortunate for us, we take a loss on that game, and this team is very weak to Mandibuzz. So you can see how I was struggling to build a team around this Pokemon that was going to be balanced, and unfortunately in the first two sets I did go negative. However, I am going to bring you guys a positive set now. The team is still very unbalanced. This team that you see on the left here is very weak to fire types. So one Alolan Marowak will absolutely wipe this team. Also, shout out to my friend for suggesting I swap out the Medicham for Serperior on this team. So let's get into the first battle. On the lead first battle, I am going to see that Sableye lead, and this is exactly why I had to take Medicham off of the team. If you guys remember, the very first team I ran had Medicham in the lead with Steelix and Clodsire in the back, so I did swap it out for Serperior, and now I should be doing a lot better against the Sableye in this matchup. My opponent goes ahead and shields the first Frenzy Plant, and I am going to shield their second Foul Play. I let the first Foul Play go, and they go ahead and they shield the second Frenzy Plant as well, so I take both of their shields, which is good. And then I'm going to swap into my Steelix. I save the Serperior in the back with a little bit of health just in case my opponent has a Water type, and lucky for us, I am able to draw out a Azumarill with my Steelix. I'm going to go for these Earthquakes, and the second one actually should come really close to KOing. He lives with 1 HP. I'm going to go ahead and bring Serperior, and I'm going to let this Ice Beam go, let it take me out, and hopefully I am able to sweep my opponent's team with my Clodsire. I'm going to go ahead and shield here in case it's return. It's not, it ends up being a foul play. They are going to be able to CMP tie with us on the Earthquake to a foul play. We have to take that foul play. It doesn't do too much because Clodsire is tanky, but now I am able to take out their Sableye, and they bring in Carbink. They have Carbink in the back, which is really good for us. We are going to be resisting their fast moves and their charge moves. So their rock throws are doing nothing to us, and I only need to reach 2 Earthquakes. I am going to be able to outpace them to the 2 Earthquakes. My opponent realizes this and they surrender. GG's to my opponent. Moving on to the next match, we are going to be seeing a Diggersby lead. Now my backline cannot see Diggersby. I need the Serperior to stay on Diggersby, so I have to win this switch. My opponent goes ahead and they swap into Frostlass, and I am going to bring in Steelix. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shield the first Avalanche because the next one is going to be debuffed. I am going to go ahead now and farm down completely after throwing my first Breaking Swipe because I'm going to be able to take them out with the Dragon Tail damage. And now I have a lot of energy that I can throw at their Diggersby. I'm going to go ahead and debuff as much as I can this Diggersby, going for these Breaking Swipes, and I think I can make one more. Yes, I make one more before the Diggersby takes us out. Now I can bring Serperior into this fully loaded Diggersby, but I'm fully expecting them to swap out because they want to clear the debuff, because if they threw a move there, it wasn't going to be doing too much damage to us. And they bring in Cresselia, and I just have to pray that this Cresselia doesn't have Future Sight. And it looks like they are going for those Grass Knots, which means they don't have Future Sight. The first Cresselia I faced in this set, or not in this set, in this video, the first Cresselia I faced was running Future Sight. It felt like my opponent was really trying hard to counter Clodsire, but lucky for us, this Cresselia is going to be running Grass Knots and Moonblast. Now, because our switch timers are misaligned a little bit, my opponent is able to swap in Diggersby with all that energy and take out our Clodsire with a Scorching Sands. I bring in Superior and I go straight for the Aerial Ace. I don't want to take a move on Superior because remember, the Diggersby swapped out with so much energy, and I feel like whatever the Diggersby would throw at Superior would do a lot more damage than whatever the Cresselia is going to throw at Superior because they could potentially have Fire Punch and Hyper Beam. We are able to survive a Moonblast from the Cresselia, and we're able to take them out with Frenzy Plant. GG's to my opponent. Moving on to the next game, we are going to be seeing a Swampert on the lead, which is an amazing lead for us. My opponent swaps into a Trevenant, but I think maybe I should have thrown the Aerial Ace because I outpace and then swapped into my Steelix just because I do have to invest a shield in this matchup against the Steelix. Whereas if I had thrown the Aerial Ace, maybe I would have gotten a shield out of my opponent, or I would have gotten him low enough where the Dragon Tails could take him out. Now my opponent is going to bring in Swampert, and I think they're gonna... No, they don't fully farm me down. That's good for us. They're gonna throw the Hydro Cannon immediately. I'm gonna bring in Superior, and unfortunately, my opponent has a Alolan Marowak in the back. Now, I should be baiting here. I go for the bait on the first one, but I don't think I bait on the second one, which might have been a mistake. However, my opponent is going to be able to outpace me to the Shadow Bones, and right now I am in Bone Club range. Bone Club is going to be doing super effective to us because it is a ground type move, even though it doesn't do too much damage. I'm going to go ahead and save a shield for Superior, hoping that my Superior can land an Aerial Ace on this Marowak. Now, my opponent does a really smart thing here. They swap into Swampert and they catch the Aerial Ace on their Swampert. Unfortunately, I have no choice but to undercharge it because I need energy because my opponent already has a Bone Club saved on their Marowak, and they are going to be able to take us out. GG's to my opponent. As you can see, my team is really weak to Alolan Marowak, and we got the Alolan Marowak. How lucky for us. But moving on to the next match, we are going to be seeing an Alolan Ninetale leads into our Superior. I'm going to stay in, and I am going to bait with an Aerial Ace, not the Frenzy Plant, because usually my opponent likes to shield this, and they do, they shield, and then I'm going to bring in my Shadow Steelix because I want to draw out a water type, or in this case, the Medicham. This is exactly where I want to see the Medicham. I need to draw it out now because, like I said, Medicham is going to be good against my back Pokemon, which is Clodsire. Now, I recognize this team, and we get the Medicham really low, which is really good for us. I am going to go ahead and take the first Ice Punch. I'm going to shield the second Ice Punch and farm down completely so that I can have a ton of energy to throw at the Alolan Ninetales. Now I'm expecting them to shield this so I can take their final shield, and I think I know what they have in the back. I'm going to save a shield for Clodsire because I am expecting Bastiodon in the back, and I think I was correct because my opponent top left. GG's to my opponent. That is a strong team. I know that team. I am very familiar with that team. Moving on to the next match, we are going to be seeing another Alolan Ninetales on the lead. This time it has Powder Snow, which means it's really, really, really bad for my entire team. Powder Snow Alolan Ninetales can easily beat Clodsire. It can also easily destroy my Superior. Now I am going to bring Steelix in against it. It is the only, like, soft-ish answer I have to this. It's not even an answer. It also gets destroyed by Alolan Ninetales. But lucky for us, we are able to draw out a Cofagrigus, which is where we want to see it because, like I said, Clodsire is really bad against Ghost-type Pokemon. The fast move is going to be resisted, Sledge Bomb is going to be resisted, and Earthquake takes forever to get to and won't do that much damage. But lucky for us, we are able to debuff this Cofagrigus to a point where the Shadow Ball does absolutely nothing to our Clodsire. That did nothing. That was so good. And then my opponent is going to bring in Sableye instead of bringing back in their Alolan Ninetales, and they take the Earthquake. That is really good for us. That means they are in the red now, and they are in range of Sludge Bomb. They are going to go ahead and invest their final shield, and I go for a catch on Superior. We catch the Foul Play, and then my opponent swaps into their Ninetales and farms us down, but lucky for us, we are able to get to the Sledge Bomb before they can get to a move on Ninetales, and I still have a shield left. I can go ahead and safely shield this. We CMP tie on Sledge Bomb, which means my opponent is not going to be able to throw a second Foul Play if they had it stored up, and we should be able to take this win. GG's to my opponent. That gives us a 4-1 in this set, so we did get a positive set with Clodsire. However, this team is still very unbalanced. This entire team will get wrecked by Alolan Sandslash. It will get wrecked, absolutely destroyed by Alolan Marowak. However, we were able to handle it pretty well when we saw it. We just, unfortunately, my opponents caught the Aerial Ace on their back Pokemon, and we weren't able to land the Aerial Ace on the Marowak. Otherwise, we might have been able to win that match. Oh, also, this team is extremely weak to Pelipper, Mantine, Gligar. I don't know how I won with this team. It's so unbalanced. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend this team. There are other teams that you can run Clodsire with that are going to be so much better. I think Clodsire could work really well with water flying types. But yeah, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and I hope you guys found it informative. If you guys like my videos, please consider subscribing. Maybe leave a like on the video. It helps me out a ton with the YouTube algorithm. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!